So my name is Darren Miller, and I'm here today with a cross-party delegation from the National Assembly for Wales. And it's with a purpose that we are here, because this journey actually began quite a long time ago, and I'm absolutely indebted to David Plaque and of course to Garth Gilmore as the Director of CMJ for the warm welcome which both of them have given to us over the years through the friendship which has been established between Wales and this tremendous place that we all call Christchurch. The plaque that is behind us, which we're going to unveil, started its journey on the face of a rock in Wales. It is a piece of Wales that we have brought with us, a piece of slate, good, solid Welsh slate. And just last Thursday, it started a journey here from the smallest city in the United Kingdom, a city called St. David's. And the reason we started the journey in St. David's is because St. David has a connection with Jerusalem. For those of you who don't know, St. David is the patron saint of Wales. He's a very dear person to us. And I want to just give you a small extract from a book which gives a little bit of an account of David's pilgrimage to this holy city of Jerusalem back in the 6th century. Now, you may listen to this and think, well, you know, this is just a legend, as many of the old saints' tales are from the Dark Ages. But you know, there are three things about David that we know which are facts. David absolutely existed. He lived in Wales. And he must have been a Christian because his name was David. He was baptized with that particular name. So this is an extract from the story of the life of St. David by the Reverend John O'Hanlon. And it refers to a pilgrimage made by David with two others from Wales, a guy called Padarn and another guy called Taylor, to Jerusalem in the 6th century. It says this: on reaching Jerusalem, David was given the apostolic gift of tongues, and they were graciously and hospitably entertained by the patriarch. David himself, as we are told, was consecrated as an archbishop, and all three, David and his friends, were commanded by this patriarch to preach. They were exhorted to regard their office as a special duty, being true soldiers of Christ, wielding the buckler of faith and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. They were required to preach the scriptures daily, so that they might frustrate and overcome their spiritual adversaries. And these commands were duly obeyed, and the gospel was announced every day. I love to hear the gospel. Their labor was crowned with a fruitful harvest of souls, and many were brought into the folds of Christ's church. Many believers were also confirmed in the faith. And when the Almighty wished his faithful servants to return towards their own country of Wales, as parting gifts, the patriarch of the city bestowed upon David 4 different objects. And these were intended to serve for religious souvenirs of the time that was spent by him in a land to celebrate that which had been the immediate scene of so many great mysteries and miracles which were effected when our Lord Jesus appeared to men upon earth. The gifts were as follows. There was a consecrated portable altar, a staff, a bell, and a tunic. And these presents were held in the greatest veneration and were long afterwards preserved. Now, that portable altar that is referred to in that story sits in St. David's Cathedral in West Wales, in Pembrokeshire. And inlaid into the top of that portable altar is a stone tablet. It's called the Jerusalem tablet because it was a stone from Jerusalem that made its way back to Wales. And that is precisely why this stone started its journey next to the stone tablet which is in St. David's Cathedral in West Wales. A remarkable exchange, if you like, of a piece of our two lands to show this friendship that I hope will exist and continue forever in the future. Now, of course, this plaque is here not only to commemorate those Christian heritage links that we have between Wales and the Holy Land, this Holy Land and this place of Israel, but also it commemorates the role of the Welsh military in this old city, and the military effort and the price that was paid by many people from Wales in liberating this old city. And so, as you can see, I have this delegation of finely dressed assembly members with me, and each of them is going to give you a little nugget from the annals of our history books in Wales to tell you a little bit about the context of the story, particularly in relation to the First World War. And to start us off, we're going to hear some extracts from the memoirs of Captain John Moore. He was a captain in the 6th Battalion of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers during the First World War, and he served on both the front line and as a staff officer with the 158th Brigade. He was never far from the action, as his memoirs testify, and he recorded his thoughts in a book which was published in 1922. It was called With Allenby's Crusaders, a remarkable book. And of course there were many other Welsh divisions, many other Welsh brigades and battalions which served in a different number of divisions, but the primary one that this plaque talks about is the 53rd Division. So I'm going to call upon now Russell George, the Assembly Member from Montgomeryshire, who's going to read the first extract from the memoirs.
Captain Moore on the impact of General Allenby's arrival in June 2017. We soon heard that General Allenby was taking over the expeditionary force. He was known as the Bull amongst us, and no commander inspired his troops with greater confidence than he. With his arrival, a kind of fresh vitality appeared among us. Such creature comforts as canteens, short leave, tent accommodation seemed to be put on a fresh and better system of organisation. General Allenby often came up from the front line when we were in the Judean Hills and chatted amongst us, letting us have small items of good news to cheer us, giving us a word of encouragement. In short, he made our lives worth living. Incidentally, he had the strongest handshake of any man I know.
But it wasn't all a spring in everybody's step. So Jenny Rathbone, the Assembly Member for Cardiff Central.
So Captain John Moore explains how he felt about war in the aftermath of a battle, as he witnessed the burials of his former comrades in November 1917. I attended the burial of a large number of our dead. When looking down on the long rows of corpses, the thought was involuntarily forced upon me that war is a mad, useless business. The futility of killing and of being killed by one's fellow men seemed so evident. The thought came too of friends at home, as yet ignorant of the blow that would very soon fall on them when they should receive the official intimation of the fate of those they loved in that dreary land. And lastly, when would one's own turn come along? All this flashed quickly through my mind as I stood by the graves, yet I quickly brushed it aside. As the closing sentences of the service were uttered, we saluted the gallant dead, and I turned away with a heavy heart.
And then a reading from Mandy Jones, an Assembly Member from North Wales.
It was bitterly cold and rained in torrents. The roads were indescribably muddy. We soon overtook the camels and were obliged to forge our way through a long line of animals, becoming splashed from head to foot with the filthy mud. The battalions were bivouacked each side of the road on the most exposed ground. There was no choice. And all the men, though wet through and very uncomfortable, seemed cheery. What a God-given gift is the cheeriness of a British soldier in uncomfortable circumstances.
John Moore there talking about the road to Jerusalem, and Sir Hughes Griffith now to talk about the capture of the old city.
Indeed, and this is an extract from the 160th Infantry Brigade, A Brief History, and it focuses on the 7th to the 9th of December 1917 and the capture of Jerusalem. The battle had opened up a long maritime plain in front of Allenby's army, with Jerusalem close to the Jordan Valley. The great pursuit of the Turks streamed along the maritime plain, and then one part of the defeated army turned east into the Judean hills to defend Jerusalem, while the other stuck to the plain and eventually formed a line slightly north of Jaffa. The 53rd Division was near the border town of Deharia, whilst the 21st Corps pushed towards Jerusalem. The division moved to cover Dilbe and then Hebron on the 5th to the 7th of December, Bethlehem, and on to Sur Bahir Sharafat. In the evening of the 8th of December, the Queens and Middlesex had occupied the high ground to the northwest of Bethlehem, from which the Turks had retired. The general advance was ordered on the 9th of December, and no opposition was encountered in Bethlehem, where they received a rapturous reception from the Christian inhabitants. And by 08:45 hours, the 5th Welsh were at the walls of Jerusalem. Later that day, the 5th Welsh, 159th Brigade of the 53rd Division, mounted the first guard over the Jaffa Gate. But other elements of the battalion came under machine gun fire from the Mount of Olives, which was assaulted by the 159th Brigade. The first Western troops to stand guard on the walls of Jerusalem since 1187 AD were Welsh. Number 11 Platoon, C Company, 5th Battalion Welsh Regiment, under the command of Lieutenant W.A. Woods, were placed to guard the Jaffa Gate, the main entrance to the old city from the coast. It was said that an Arab prophet had foretold the ejection of the Turks from Jerusalem when the Nile flowed into Palestine and a leader, Ali Nebi, advanced from the west. The mispronunciation of the commander-in-chief's name and the pipeline from the Sweetwater Canal seemed to justify the Arab and account for the Turkish retreat. General Allenby made his official entry into Jerusalem on the 11th of December with the 160th Brigade, represented by detachments from all its units.
And that 160th Brigade of the Royal Welsh still exists. And to read a special letter of greetings from Brigadier Alan Richmond, the current commander of 160 Brigade, is Alan Davis, the Assembly Member for Blaenau Gwent and former Minister in the Welsh Government for the Armed Forces. Alan.
Thank you very much. I spoke to Brigadier Richmond last week at the homecoming parade in Cardiff for the Welsh Guards, and he was very pleased to hear about this event here today, and he asked me to read this message to you from him as today's commander of the 160th Infantry Brigade and the head of the British Army in Wales. He says, "I am delighted that the military heritage of the Welsh people in the Holy Land is being recognised today. My brigade was part of the 53rd Welsh Division, and after 2.5 years of fighting in the Dardanelles, Egypt and Palestine, entered Jerusalem on the 9th of December 1917. 2 days later, on the 11th of December, General Allenby arrived on foot to formally declare the liberation of the old city of Jerusalem from the Ottoman Empire. His success would not have been possible without the selfless sacrifice of so many Welsh soldiers of the 53rd Division and also the 74th Yeomanry Division. We will remember them all with great pride and humility." And he ends by saying, "Cymru am byth."
I've asked Alan Davis also just to read the text on the plaque before we unveil it in both English and Welsh. You know, we were visiting the Academy of the Hebrew Language the other day, and we were told that Hebrew is often referred to by the Jewish people as the holy language. Well, we're going to hear the language of heaven as we refer to Welsh in a few moments from Alan Davis.
And there's a test at the gate and so on. This plaque was installed by members of the National Assembly for Wales on the 25th of February 2019. It is to commemorate the Christian and military heritage of the people of Wales in the Holy Land, including the role of the 53rd Welsh Division in the liberation of the old city of Jerusalem from the Ottoman Empire during the First World War on the 11th of December 1917. Diolch iddo. Gosodwyd y plac hwn gan aelodau Cynulliad Cenedlaethol Cymru ar y 5 ar 20 o Chwefro 2019 i gofhau treftadaeth Cristnogol a milwrol pobl Cymru yn y tir sanctaidd gan gynnwys rôl Adran 53 Cymru yn rhyddhau hen ddinas Jerusalem o ymddidolaeth Ottoman yn ystod y Rhyfel Byd Cyntaf ar y 11 o Rhagfyr 1917.
We're going to unveil the plaque in just a few moments, but I wanted just to refer to, these are some leaflets that were produced for an exhibition which took place in Wrexham during the centenary year of the end of World War I. I'm going to leave a stack here at Christchurch that perhaps can be in the Heritage Centre there for people to be able to take away with them. And it gives you a little bit more of the context that the troops were in at that particular time, including some sketches that were taken by an artist in the Holy Land in that period. So this for us is quite a historic occasion. As I understand it, there's not a single piece of the Welsh language screwed to any wall anywhere in the whole city. And I think it's quite remarkable that you're going to have this little piece of Wales which is going to be in this garden to commemorate our Christian heritage links and our military heritage links here in Holy Land. And I'd like to invite David, if you would, to come and help me unveil the plaque so that we can celebrate what is taking place. Thank you. Yes, you come and gather them.
Be very careful.
We've got to be careful with this now, yes. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. There we go.
Bravo.
Come in as well, Jenny.
Yes, come on. Jenny, come. And it looks like we have an official photographer as well.
A couple of us need to kneel down. It might be a bit better if a couple of us kneel down. You don't kneel down.
Garth, I think you should join us too.
I kneel down, I won't go back up.